What's up, everyone? This is DeagleBeagle, and today we're going to take another look at the tier list. I'm actually going to move some Pokemon around. So, some Pokemon were S tier because, well, maybe they shouldn't have ever been in the S tier, but let's just talk about them. So, I can't even tell which one's which for Urshifu, the Rapid Strike, but the Rapid Strike one is no longer S tier, or maybe never was. There's just too many counters for it now. Everyone's trying to counter it with, like, I don't know, Terragrass Rillaboom or Raging Bolt or Wellspring. Wellspring's probably the most common counter for it. Amoonguss, and Sun, Torkoal, whatever. There's just too many counters. So I'm gonna make it the Rapid Strike one A tier, and the Dark Urshifu S tier. Also, Chi-Yu, I suppose you could say, needs to be on a specific team that's highly offensive and really takes advantage of its ability. And you need to have a decent amount of special attackers. You don't need a ton, but like you need probably certain special attackers and more than just one, probably at least two. So I guess you could say it has top tier potential. That's why I had it on S tier, and it's like good in general. Even by itself, it's not too bad, but like it's probably should be barely like high A tier. And Incineroar also should be moved down to A tier. It seems weird to move it down to A tier, but it's just not S tier because Intimidate seems to be more of a liability than an asset lately. Also, I'm not sure about Iron Hands, if it should stay S tier or not. It's not that bad, but it doesn't seem as good as it used to be though. Like you could use another fake outer like Rillaboom or Incineroar, even though I even think Incineroar is kind of a liability with its ability now because there's so many people trying to counter Intimidate that it's probably not even worth running Intimidate anymore. So, but technically Iron Hands, at least on paper, seems pretty good because it counters. It can hit Tornadus hard, heavy slam against Flutter Mane, or use like a booster energy set with Wild Charge, or just Wild Charge even with like Clear Amulet. It hits a lot of Pokemon decently hard, but I don't know about Iron Hands. It seems like the type of teams that people used to use aren't as good anymore, like Amoonguss, Iron Hands type of stuff. There's a lot more counters for that type of stuff now, and like there's just a lot more people trying to counter Amoonguss now, and like Wellspring counters it. I don't know. So Iron Hands might be S tier. It's either S or A for sure. So I guess I'll leave it in S for now until we figure out what tier it is, but I just have a feeling like it's A tier because the usage isn't very high, and there's other electric Pokemon now that you can use instead, like Raging Bolt. There's other fake outers that are probably better. So, uh, like fiery types and other things have gone up, even though you could technically still use Assault Vest with Heavy Slam. So, up to you, but I would probably say it's A tier. Um, but I don't want to quite move it down yet. And some of these other Pokemon, I'm not sure if they should stay A tier or not. Like Entei might even be S tier because of Sacred Fire, but since it's only 50% and it has some weaknesses, I don't know. I'll probably keep it A tier because it's not amazing, but it can be if you get a Sacred Fire burn. And I'm pretty comfortable with the rest of these in the tier list. Let's double check that. Is Blood Moon in here? Yeah, it is. Okay, I should put it next to Ursaluna, the original form. And some of these Pokemon are like only good in Trick Room, so they're A tier. Um, Yeah, this list looks pretty accurate, and we should probably start categorizing these Pokemon. I don't really know, but I have the feeling like Rhyperior does have a niche over Ursaluna with Rock Slide, but probably not because Facade and Guts just hits really hard. It is a little bit slower, but I don't. It has a lot of weaknesses, so I don't. I don't think Rhyperior is that good. It does have decent coverage, but you have Facade instead of Rock Slide, and it seems like Tyranitar is probably the better call if you want a strong Rock Slider in Trick Room, because it has the sand and it has more special defense. It doesn't have all these 4 times weaknesses. Yeah, I don't think the people that are using Rhyperior are going to keep using it because it seems like it's worse than other Pokemon. And Mammoth at its best before in like Regulation E was like, I don't even think it was maybe A tier, maybe barely, but that was when you really needed to counter intimidate and hit a Pokemon hard, like Iron Hands with a choice band, whatever, high horsepower or something. I would say it's B tier though. And then Executor missing Sleep Powder or could set up Trick Room, I'd say it's B tier. Even though Jamie Voigt said it could be really good for with the expanding force. I guess it could be technically, yeah. Actually, I would want to test this out though, but it's probably B tier, even though, well, yeah, because it kind of relies on like Sun, unlike Iron Crown. So it could be decent in Trick Room, but it's like use Hatterene instead or use Iron Crown outside of Trick Room probably. And then this Pokemon Iron Boulder, we thought it would be really good at first, but with all the like Intimidate and other stuff going on and its bad defensive typing, it didn't turn out to be nearly as good as people thought it would be. It's probably like hard to say what tier it is, but it might be barely A tier, but I'm not sure of even that. But I guess since it has Mighty Cleave, we could say it's A tier. It's just if they resist it or they don't even have Protect anyways, like Tornadus, then that is not incredibly useful. But I suppose it's barely A tier because of that move. And then Cornerstone is good on certain teams for Follow Me, even though normally you would, unless you're really taking advantage of Sturdy, you would probably want to use a different Pokemon. But it does super affect Incineroar, so even if it gets intimidated, it doesn't take that much damage, and it can pressure Entei and some of these other Pokemon pretty hard because Rock is great offensively right now. So I feel like it's probably barely A tier. So I guess this is not an order of how good they are, by the way. And then Screamtail, it's really good against certain teams like Dondozo or teams that just don't like Encore Disable type stuff. But overall, I probably wouldn't recommend Screamtail, at least as a lead, because they could just switch out. But in the back, potentially, it could be pretty decent and counter some of these setup teams. So it's probably barely A tier. And then Bronzong, I know some people were using it, but I don't know if it's that good or not, because it can do the body press stuff and heavy slam, but I don't know how it's that much better than Archaludon besides Trick Room. So maybe it's ability or something. It's hard to say, but I don't even know if it's A tier. It might. Well, people said they were doing really well with it, so I guess I don't know. I could make it A tier, but I don't know if it's even A tier. I suppose I'll just make it A tier, and that's pretty much that. I mean, some of these Pokemon used to be really good like Moon, but they're not anymore in general. So the tier list seems pretty set. Some of these Pokemon are barely A tier, like Walking Wake had a lot of people saying it was great, but then everyone stopped using it because they realized it actually wasn't that great like they thought. It has a strong water move and a consistent offense in any weather. Well, except no weather probably, but it's just it seems good on paper, but it's not because there's too much like Flutter Mane or just better special attackers than it, like Chi-Yu or Flutter Mane, or maybe even Raging Bolt, to the point where Walking Wake doesn't seem to have a huge niche. And I don't even know if it's A tier. It might even be B tier. But I'm going to say for now it's like really low A tier and call it a day. So some of these Pokemon actually I'm not sure about, like Porygon 2, but they do seem pretty bulky, even though you might want to use Cresselia instead of Porygon 2. It really depends if you want to use Recover or not, I think is the main thing. So if you want to use Recover or something unique to Porygon 2, I know it does have good bulk, but like compared to Cresselia, it seems like it has about the same bulk, and or maybe a little bit more, but then you require the item. So it would be like using whatever leftovers or citrus like Cresselia, and yeah, some like almost well, a lot of the Pokemon that get like Define or Contrary also are A tier, mostly because of that. So that's why some of these Pokemon are like maybe barely A tier, like King Ambit and stuff, and Okidoggy. But I prefer Zapdos Galarian the most. Yeah, all of this seems accurate, except actually Araquanid is probably B tier now because there's too much Wellspring. Well, actually it does have a bug move. No, it's fine. If it has a bug move, it can do decent damage to Wellspring, but not a ton. Yeah, I guess since it has a move that super affects it, it's actually barely A tier. It's good in Trick Room. And what else are we missing? I think that's it. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the next video.